The pain of being slammed jolted me awake. In front of me, Ethan was furious, his voice rising as he yelled at me. "Sonia, do you have any compassion at all? Claire has depression. If she can't take it and jumps, can you take responsibility?" Ethan's buddy Zach sneered at me and added, "You're just jealous. You know perfectly well the girl Ethan likes is Claire, yet every day you use studying as an excuse to keep them apart. And now the college entrance exam is almost here and you're still blocking them? Thanks to you, my bro scored second in the whole grade on the mock exams. Even if he runs to save Claire and comes back, he'll have enough time. What, you just want Claire to fall from the roof and die so you can stay by Ethan's side?" The hatred in Ethan's eyes was as if he were looking at an enemy. A chill crept up from the soles of my feet and my scalp prickled. Ethan and I both came from a poor mountain village. Even our high school tuition had been scraped together by the villagers, one person giving $1, another 50 cents. I knew this college entrance exam was our one chance to change our fates, and there would only be one. The village could never afford to send us to repeat another year. If we failed, we would have no choice but to return and work construction like everyone else. Changing my fate was the most important thing in my life. Compared to that, romance wasn't worth more than 2 extra steamed buns. I stopped Ethan and Claire from being together because Ethan kept skipping classes to play around, wasting his study time. How was that wrong? I only wanted Ethan to get into a good university so we wouldn't fail the villagers who had supported us. That's why in my previous life, when less than 30 minutes remained before the exam and I heard Ethan wanted to run 10 kilometers to the rooftop of a 52-story building for Claire, I thought he was insane. I called the police to save her. They'd be there much faster than he could. If he missed the exam, he'd only end up like my father, swinging a sledgehammer on a construction site for the rest of his life. I dragged Ethan with all my strength, pulling him into the exam hall so he would sit the test. Because of that, he and I were both admitted to Tsinghua and Peking University. Zach only managed to get into a junior college. We all had bright futures ahead of us. But because Ethan hadn't gone in time, Claire was persuaded down from the rooftop by a tall, handsome firefighter. She fell in love with her rescuer and completely cut ties with Ethan. He lost the love of his life and blamed it all on me, pushing me off a high rise. When the police arrested Ethan, Zach was still defending him. "You don't understand. Exams happen every year, but he lost the woman he loved most. If it weren't for Sonia, Claire wouldn't have married someone else. Ethan, don't be afraid. 18 years later, you'll rise again. When you get out, we'll still be brothers." Online, countless people took Ethan's side. So what if she died? The poor guy lost his one true love. Because Sonia stood in the way, he could only watch helplessly as the girl he loved pledged herself to her rescuer. How much must that hurt? Zach even turned that broken love story into internet fame. Meanwhile, my death was dismissed as something I deserved. Ironic, isn't it? After that brush with death, I stopped blocking him. He smiled, nodded, and said smugly, "Makes sense. Exams come every year, but once love is gone, it's gone forever." Beaming, he swore, "Don't worry, Sonia. The rooftop where Claire is, it's less than 10 kilometers away. I'll save her and be back in time. Just don't tell the village chief or anyone else, or you'll be sorry." Our high school wasn't even ranked in the city. What did second in the grade on a mock exam matter? The college entrance exam is a nationwide single-log bridge, not a contest within one school. Even Ethan knew how absurd it was to run off and save someone right before the test, which is why he didn't dare let the village elders find out. But his arrogance was overflowing. He thought he could make a round trip and still be on time. He forgot how bad traffic is on exam day, and that once 15 minutes pass after the start, no one is allowed into the test hall. Now, with less than 30 minutes left before the exam, it was 10 kilometers away, and he had no transportation. Waiting for the elevator takes time. Persuading Claire to come down would take time too. Where was Ethan supposed to find all that time? I nodded helplessly. I didn't even have a phone, so even if I wanted to report him, I couldn't. "Go," I said. "I'm going into the exam hall." Zach, standing nearby, said, "Ethan, take my phone. You go save Claire. I'll be in the exam hall waiting. I'll check the route for you." Without thinking further, Ethan grabbed Zach's phone and ran out, sending a voice message as he sprinted. "Claire, wait for me. I'm coming right now." While countless students were heading toward the exam hall, Ethan alone ran the opposite way. At that moment, I knew with painful clarity. Our lives had split into two roads, running in opposite directions. What surprised me was that Zach, that sycophant, didn't go with him. In the past, whether it was skipping class or sneaking off to meet Claire, the two of them had always been together. Zach and I entered the exam hall side by side. He suddenly gave me a smirking look. "I thought you'd stop that idiot, keep him from going to Claire. You and Ethan both disgust me." His words left me stunned. I stared at him, unable to believe what I'd just heard. What do you mean by that?" It was as if some sinister thread inside my brain had suddenly strung all the strange, unreasonable details together. Ethan sneaking out at night, bumping into Claire who was being harassed by thugs, the two of them falling in love at first sight, constantly going out together. Zach always covering for Ethan, even encouraging me to skip classes too. But I had my eyes only on studying, and I kept telling them not to cut class. Whenever I said that, the two of them would exchange mocking looks. "Forget him. Don't hang around with a bookworm. All he knows is studying. Acts like someone's mom, nags even worse than mine. Let's go play. Don't take him along." To help Ethan and Claire, Zach even gave up his prized Nokia phone so they could chat on QQ during class. Now Zach suddenly laughed out loud, drawing the attention of those around us. "You don't really think Ethan's going to make it back, do you? His mock exam papers, I fed him the answers ahead of time. That idiot still thought he was smart. No wonder he kept skipping class, playing on his phone, and yet still sat steady at number 2. That's because of me." I stared at him in disbelief. He had done it on purpose. Zach looked thrilled at my expression. "Didn't expect that, did you? My old man's always yapping in my ear about how you two are outstanding, the top students. I want to see what his face looks like when his two precious star pupils both fail to get in. My dad will choke on his own words." Zach's father was our homeroom teacher. He often gave Ethan and me extra lessons on weekends, even keeping us at his house to tutor us. I'd heard him scolding Zach more than once. "You're dumb and lazy. If only you had half their brains, I'd be satisfied. Those two can definitely make it into a top-tier university. They can be bold in filling out their applications. As for you, Zach, if you can just get into a third-tier school, I'll count it as a blessing from our ancestors." I had always thought those were just harmless jabs. I never imagined Zach would bear such a grudge that he'd want to ruin us. It was a bright, sunny day, but my scalp went cold. I never would have thought that the classmate who had gone to school and played with us every day could harbor such venom in his heart. Zach seemed pleased with my reaction. He went further, stabbing deeper. "You know your dad's swinging a sledgehammer on a construction site, but do you know what your mom's doing there?" My stomach clenched. He leaned in, his voice low and cruel. "Your dad sells his strength, and so does your mom, but on other people's bodies. I've been there, you know. She's got a red mole on her inner thigh, right? You can't deny it. That skill of hers looks like something she's honed for years. If you don't get into college, you'll just go back and take over her job. Don't worry, I'll be a loyal customer." Laughing viciously, he raised his hand, reaching to touch my face. "How dare you think you deserve college? With your kind, the only thing you'll end up doing is selling yourself." Hearing his filthy words, I wanted nothing more than to slap Zach across the face. But I forced myself to calm down. That was exactly what he wanted, to rattle me, shake my state of mind, make me fail this exam. I couldn't let him win. I took a deep breath, steadying my wildly surging emotions, pressing down the fury boiling inside me. I ignored him. I knew all too well that the more you respond to someone like him, the more excited he gets. He knew he couldn't score well, so he just wanted to drag those around him down to his level. Yet, every word and every action of his only proved one thing: that he was desperate. The bell signaling the start of the exam rang. I inhaled deeply, swept away all distractions, and focused entirely on the test paper. After the last mock exam, I had carefully gone over every mistake I'd made, so now it felt as if divine help guided my pen. Question after question, I knew the answers. Suddenly, noise drifted in through the windows. Many students turned to look, but I kept my head down, writing. Then I heard Ethan's voice outside, helpless and panicked. I'm a test taker. I was only a little late. Please let me in. I was saving someone. Ask the police. They're the ones who brought me here. But the proctor blocked him. No. It's already more than 20 minutes past the start. You can't go in. Try again next year. Ethan's wailing cries rang out, followed by Claire's voice, trying to soothe him. If they won't let you take it, then don't. Look at me, I didn't even go to high school, and I'm still living. What's the big deal? Did you really think someone from a little place like ours could turn into a golden phoenix? If you want to study, we'll just repeat the year next time. Crying and making a scene here, what a shameful display. But Ethan's voice carried only desolate despair. It's over. Everything's over. My parents will kill me. Repeat? How could I ever have the chance to repeat? On the podium, the proctor banged the desk. Everyone, focus. Mind your own papers. Knowing Zach's poisonous thoughts and seeing what had just happened to Ethan, I could already guess. They would blame everything on me again, just like in my previous life. Coming into the city for the exam, with no parents around, and me without even a phone, I had no way to contact anyone. I didn't dare take the risk. If Ethan, under Zach's instigation, did something foolish, it could ruin my entire life. They could break my hands, or tie me up so I couldn't make it to the test. After experiencing life and death once, I had prepared for the worst. I couldn't afford to gamble. In case something happened, that night I stayed at the police station near the exam site, sleeping on a metal chair. The station chief, Uncle Lou, learned that I was a test taker who had come alone from a poor mountain village. He offered to pay out of his own pocket for me to stay in a hotel. I refused. I couldn't sleep alone outside, but here I felt safe and secure. Uncle, I'll just sleep here one night. I promise I won't disturb anyone. Chief Lou let out a long sigh. How can you rest well on a chair? We have a spare room inside. Rest there. Eat something first. Tomorrow, do your best and take the exam well. He brought me a lunchbox. It even had vegetables and meat. I rarely ate meat, maybe once a week. Thank you, Uncle Lou. Could I make a phone call too? The chief was gentle and kind. Smiling, he patted my head. You want to let your parents know you're safe, right? Go ahead. I dialed the number, but it wasn't my parents I called. At the same time, Ethan and Zach were searching everywhere for me. I overheard Zach's oily voice. Ethan. Sonia admitted it herself. She just doesn't want you to take the college entrance exam. She said your village is too poor. It can't afford to support 2 college students. Supporting just her is barely enough. You're better than Sonia, and he's been jealous of you for a long time. Otherwise, why would he always block you from seeing Claire before, but this time suddenly agree so easily to let you go find her? He's good at math, you know. He must have calculated that you wouldn't have enough time to make it back. I wanted to stall for you, but the proctor forced me into the classroom. Sorry, I couldn't wait for you. Claire also chimed in with guilt in her voice. Ethan, I'm sorry. He told me that if I just kept you from taking the exam, then you'd always stay with me. I only did it because I loved you too much and didn't want to lose you. If I had known how important the college entrance exam really was, I never would have done it. It's all Sonia's fault. He told me to do this. He just wanted to steal your spot as the top scorer. Ethan's eyes turned blood red. His fists clenched as he glared murderously in the direction of the exam hall. Sonia, how dare you set me up like this? Don't let me find you. He didn't know that in a corner he couldn't see, Claire's gaze toward Zach was full of longing, tangled with secret affection. Zach's lips curled into a mocking smirk, his narrowed eyes glinting with something twisted. Casually, as if by accident, he mentioned, if Sonia were gone, then no one would run back to your village and start wagging their tongue. Ethan lowered his head, chewing over Zach's words a few times under his breath. Then suddenly he lifted his head, his scattered gaze sharpening into focus. Yeah. If Sonia were gone? At that time, I was arriving at the exam hall with Uncle Lou and the police officers, clinging to them for protection and peace of mind, because no one made me feel safer than the police. At the entrance, I saw Ethan, Zach, and Claire waiting. Ethan's face was dark, his hands hidden behind his back. Sonia, come here. Claire stood beside him, smiling sweetly. Sonia, where did you run off to last night? Ethan worried about you so much he couldn't sleep. There were faint red marks on her neck. My guard shot up immediately. Could it be that last night, when Ethan couldn't find me, he took out his frustration on Claire instead? Zach stepped forward, pretending to play the good guy. Yeah, we looked everywhere for you last night. My dad told me to take care of both of you. Even if you didn't come back to sleep, you should have at least said something. Whispers rippled through the crowd around us. What's a girl doing? Not going back with her classmates at night? Off running around with some man? Someone like that. Why even bother with the college entrance exam? Just wasting the country's resources. But Uncle Lou had been in law enforcement for decades. He saw through the situation at a glance. He grabbed my arm. Don't go over there. In the next second, he pulled out his baton and strode straight toward Ethan, shouting, "Hands up!" The other officers also closed in. Suddenly, someone in the crowd cried out, "He's got a knife!" Uncle Lou reacted instantly, throwing Ethan to the ground. Zach and Claire were also restrained on the spot. Ethan thrashed wildly, his eyes locked on me with vicious hatred. "Sonia, this is all your fault. You ruined me. You'll pay for this." Uncle Lou shoved his head down hard against the pavement. "Calm down," he barked. Zach, once restrained, stayed silent. Claire, however, shouted hysterically, trying to sway the crowd, "Why are you arresting me? I didn't do anything. Why don't you arrest Sonia? If it weren't for him egging me on yesterday, tricking Ethan into leaving, none of this would have happened. Ethan couldn't take the exam all because of him. Sonia didn't dare come back last night because he was guilty, afraid the truth would come out." I couldn't help but marvel at Zach. In public, he always looked harmless. But behind the scenes, his strikes were merciless. Using Claire as their shield, they tried to pin every bit of blame on me. It became clear that in my previous life, when Ethan shoved me off that high rise, Zach must have been the one egging him on. What good would it do me if Ethan missed the exam? Yesterday, there were uncles and aunties who must have overheard me trying to stop Ethan. Plenty of parents had come to drop their kids off at the test site. Yesterday and today, it was the same group. Someone must have heard. What exactly had I said to Ethan then? And how had Zach twisted it? Step by step, I walked up to Ethan, lowered my head, and looked him in the eyes. Slowly, firmly, I asked him, "Ethan, think carefully. Claire and I have never gotten along. Do you really believe he would ever listen to me and do something like that? Claire's disdain and hatred for me have always been out in the open. He never once tried to hide it. Back then, my mind was completely on studying, and even though I knew he disliked me, I never cared. Not because I was some saint, but because arguing with him would have been a waste of my time. So, if you believed them so quickly, then they must have said other things behind my back. Lies about me. But really, would I ever scheme against you for the reasons they gave?" Pinned down under Uncle Lou's grip, Ethan twisted like a trapped eel. But after hearing my words, he suddenly stopped struggling, falling into thought. "Officers, maybe this is a misunderstanding?" A startled voice called out from the crowd. It was our homeroom teacher, Mr. Zhang, rushing over, his satchel swinging as he jumped off his bike without even locking it. The phone call I had made last night hadn't been to my parents or to the village chief. It had been directly to Mr. Zhang. I had told him everything. The parents gathered around began shouting, "What misunderstanding? We all saw the knife. Officers, take him away. What if he goes crazy and hurts my daughter?" Others chimed in, "That's right. What if someone else gets hurt? All these kids have exams today." If I guessed right, it was Zach's idea to block me at the exam entrance, so he could use public opinion to dump all the blame onto me. If Uncle Lou hadn't been there, if I hadn't already lived through death once, if I had still been the foolish, naive girl I used to be and believed them blindly, I would have been stabbed to death by Ethan right here. And then, with Zach's spin on the story, I would have been painted as someone who got exactly what she deserved. Ethan would be arrested and ruined, and even if I somehow survived, the gossip would still destroy me. Why did he stab you and not anyone else? Must be because you stopped him from taking the exam. Must be because you forced him to go save Claire. Even if I lived, I'd be skinned alive by their words. And Zach, the true instigator, would slip away untouched, hiding in the shadows while everything unfolded, completely unscathed, still taking his exam, still being his father's good son. But what Zach hadn't expected was that the father he feared most would show up here, and that the smear campaign he'd prepared against me would ricochet back onto himself. I didn't care about teacher-student respect. I raised my voice at once. "There's no misunderstanding. Mr. John, you came just in time. Yesterday, Claire tried to take her own life on the rooftop 30 minutes before the exam. Ethan ran to save her, and because of that, he was late and missed the test." But when I stepped into the exam room, Zach started spewing filth about me, about my mother. He said he was going to make sure neither Ethan nor I could take the college exam, so all your effort in tutoring us would go to waste. He even bragged that every time you guided a student, he'd ruin one. The crowd erupted in shock. Zach, his face twisted with shame and fury, cursed at me. "You awful woman, shut your mouth, shut up!" Mr. Zhang froze in place, stunned. Though he had suspected, he hadn't truly believed his own son could sink so low. Zach had grown up under his strict discipline, so almost reflexively he started crying and denying it. "Dad, I didn't, don't listen to him. She's a liar." But when Mr. Zhang came to his senses, he snatched up his satchel and hurled it at Zach with all his strength. "I'll crush you, you beast. How could you do something like this?" Even though Mr. Zhang raised his hand as if to strike, I could see he hadn't put much strength into it. In fact, it looked more like he was shielding Zach beneath him. The scene outside the test center descended into chaos. Uncle Lou, worried the commotion might affect the other students, immediately handed Ethan over to other officers to restrain, then grabbed Mr. Zhang by the arm. "Stop it. Don't affect the rest of the test takers. If you want to talk, do it somewhere else." I stood at the exam hall entrance, unmoving. No matter how big the storm outside, nothing was more important to me than the college entrance exam. A little distance away, I could see Mr. Zhang bowing and nodding repeatedly to Uncle Lou, pointing at Zach and saying something. I caught vague fragments about guaranteeing his participation in the exam, but I didn't hear clearly. Since the gates were open for us, I hurried inside, went straight to my seat, and began the test. Not long after, through the corridor window, I caught sight of Zach. He dragged his finger across his neck in a slicing gesture, his eyes fixed on me. I kept my head down, finished my paper, and refused to hand it in early. Only when the final bell rang did I leave with the others. Ethan acted on impulse, lashing out whenever someone egged him on. But Zach was different. He was like a snake in the shadows, waiting to sink his fangs in when you least expected it. With a crowd around, he shrank back. When the crowd thinned, he would strike. Sure enough, with so many people leaving together, Zach was nowhere in sight. When I finally stepped through the main gates with the others, I saw my parents and the village chief waiting. My father and mother's clothes were covered in dust, their cracked hands proof they had rushed straight from the construction site after hearing the news. As for the slander Zach spread about my mom, I never believed a word of it. My mother was hardworking and strong. She could handle the same grueling labor as my father. Once, some people had mocked me, saying I should give up studying and become the mistress of a coal boss instead, that I'd make more money that way. My mom had not only cursed them out, but also taught me that no matter how bitter or exhausting life became, I should never sell my body. "Don't listen to nonsense," she told me. "Just study hard. One day you'll go to a big city and work in an office tower with air conditioning. Don't be like me and your dad, breaking our backs on construction sites." The village chief, already an old man, had been telling us since we were children, "Study hard. Only by studying can you make money and bring our whole village out. We've lived in these mountains all our lives. I only hope you can live better and lead everyone out with you." Seeing them here filled me with warmth. It felt good to be alive. At the police station, I saw Ethan's parents. Ethan had been charged with deliberately delaying the exam, attempted murder, and creating a major disturbance outside the test hall. He was detained immediately. Zach, thanks to his father's guarantee, was still allowed to take the exam that day and the next, though separately under police watch. After each test, he would be taken back to the station for questioning. Strictly speaking, Zach hadn't lifted a hand. None of this should have been pinned on him. But Ethan insisted Zach had instigated everything. The real shock came when Claire suddenly erupted. He rushed at Ethan, clawing at him. "Don't you dare slander Zach. He didn't do any of this. It was all you. You're the one who did everything. Officer, I want to file a report. When I tried to commit suicide, it was because he hurt me. Ethan froze in disbelief, staring at Claire. You told me you loved me, that you wanted to be with me. But Claire's face twisted with open disgust. Who would love a bookworm like you? Poor, reeking of sweat, every time I see you I want to puke. Ethan's parents, simple farmers who had spent their lives working the land, were dumbstruck, having no idea what to do in such a situation. The village chief slammed his cane against the floor and shouted furiously, "Shameful! You've disgraced our entire village!" As Ethan was escorted toward the detention center, he passed right by me. Ethan's steps faltered. He stopped and looked at me. If I had listened to you back then and hadn't gone to Claire, would I have been able to take the exam too? I'm sorry. I never thought they could be so malicious, wanting to destroy us. Luckily, you didn't fall for it. I couldn't hold back and cut him off. Shut up, Ethan. You can't blame anyone else. Blame yourself for letting your desire cloud your mind. You let your body control your brain. If you had listened to me and broken things off with Claire, would you have turned your hatred on me? Ethan shook his head fiercely, desperate to explain. No, never. No matter what, I could never hurt you. But the memory of my past life was vivid before my eyes, the way he had shoved me off that building. His tears now, his guilt, all of it felt no different than a crocodile's tears, shed only because he finally realized the cost he would have to pay. Sonia, I was wrong. I really was wrong. Then repent, I told him coldly. Go to prison and repent there. For the moment, the threat to my life was gone. To help me focus on my exams, my father and mother rented a cheap hotel near the test center for 50 yuan a night, so I could rest properly. When they found out I had spent the night at the police station instead, they and the village chief went especially to thank Uncle Liu. That boxed meal he gave me, I didn't know how much it cost, but my dad tried to hand him 15 yuan for it. Uncle Liu refused. Absolutely not. Taking this would be wrong. It's just a meal, nothing more. My dad wasn't good with words, only with strength. He kept trying to shove the money into Uncle Liu's pocket. I quickly grabbed his hand to stop him. Then thank you, Uncle Liu. Mr. Zhang, meanwhile, hadn't slept all night. His face was drawn and haggard, and he didn't say a word to me. With my parents and the village chief by my side, I walked into the exam hall. After finishing the last day's test, I saw the police taking Zach away. Mr. Zhang looked at me with eyes full of resentment. If you'd told me sooner, things never would have gone this far. I spent my time teaching you, and in return, you bite the hand that fed you. Sonia, you'll come to no good end. At that moment, I knew the bond of teacher and student between us had been severed completely. But I had no intention of forgiving Zach, of signing any letter of understanding. If not for Uncle Liu and the other officers' quick reaction, I would have already died under Ethan's knife. We were all over 18 now. We had to face the consequences of our actions. Claire, as a victim, wasn't detained. He ran around everywhere trying to find connections to help Zach, but none worked. Instead, a few small-time thugs took advantage of him, and rumors spread wildly in town. His reputation plummeted. Mr. Zhang, after blaming me, turned his blame onto Claire as well. That was when I learned Zach and Claire had been middle school classmates, and they had been lovers all along. It was only because Mr. Zhang disapproved that Zach was forced to hang around us. When the university admission letters finally came, I was working at the construction site with my parents to earn tuition money. My father swung the sledgehammer, breaking down walls. My mother shouldered the heavy loads, carrying rubble down from the upper floors. I helped too, carrying until my shoulders were raw and swollen, the skin rubbed red. When sweat seeped in, it stung like salt poured onto an open wound. For me, it was just summer work. For my mother, it was her daily life, repeated endlessly. Her shoulders were hardened and scarred from the carrying pole. All my life I had heard people say, if you don't suffer through studying, you'll suffer through life. But hearing it 1,000 times was nothing compared to living it even once. My mother misunderstood, thinking I was worried about failing. She gently comforted me. Don't be afraid. If you don't pass this time, we'll repeat the year. Your dad and I talked it over. We've saved some money with your grandma. If you need to repeat, we won't use the village's money again. Ethan was already in prison. His parents ran themselves ragged trying to deal with his case. In the village, whispers swirled, blaming me for Ethan's downfall. I knew it, but my parents never wanted me to hear. So I pretended I didn't. But when the acceptance letters arrived, all the gossip vanished in an instant. The village chief struck Ethan's name from the family register. They even used Ethan's case in the village as a negative example. The village scrapes together money to send kids to school, the elders said. It's so that everyone can make something of themselves, so later they can repay the village and lead everyone toward prosperity. But some people are selfish, nearly causing enormous loss, almost costing us the first top scorer from our entire village. I scored 745 points and became the college entrance exam's top scorer. The day I returned to the village, the acceptance letter hadn't yet arrived, but representatives from the top universities in Beijing and reporters from major media outlets were already there. Even senior officials came in person. Student, take a look at our university. Tuition and housing are completely free, meals covered too. And every semester there's a scholarship of 10,000 yuan, one recruiter promised. In my previous life, I hadn't achieved such a score. Back then, I had only just reached the cutoff for Tsinghua and Peking University. After each exam, I used to copy down every single mistake, thinking only that I didn't want to repeat them in the future. I never expected that this effort would yield such a result. When the officials asked if I had any difficulties, I told them about our village. We were small, without even a primary school. Children had to ride their bicycles 20 kilometers over rugged mountain roads to the nearest big village to study. There wasn't even a flat road. To prosper, we must first build roads, I said, and build a school so that children from Shilin can study. In front of the media, the officials gave their word on the spot. They even awarded me a stipend and a banner of commendation. In the end, I applied for the finance program at Tsinghua. When school began, my father and mother personally accompanied me. On the train, my mother gossiped about the village. Ethan had been sentenced, and Mr. Zhang had resigned, running around for Zach's sake. Claire had gotten pregnant, though no one knew who the father was. His family took him to a small clinic to terminate the pregnancy. Word of it spread like wildfire, his reputation ruined. But no matter what, none of them had anything to do with me anymore. When the train stopped and I set foot in Beijing, I was struck by its splendor. The capital city I had only ever seen in books now stood vividly before me. Tsinghua and Peking, treasures of 100 years, gathered the nation's brightest talents here. In that moment, all my ambitions could no longer be contained. Yet I knew my own shortcomings. I wasn't naturally brilliant. So during my university years, I poured everything into study and competitions. I diligently completed every assignment from my professors. Maybe it was luck, but in my junior year, thanks to my advisor's recommendation, I joined a top venture capital firm in the city. By chance, the project group I entered was focusing on tourism. Big cities put people under pressure, and many longed to return to nature. Mountain scenery, eco-friendly resorts, those were in demand. At the meeting, I recommended my village. Our people are simple and honest. We have unique ethnic traditions. Tourists can hike the mountains, forage for mushrooms, wade in rivers to catch little fish. It could be an authentic eco-resort. That very night, I drafted a project proposal. My manager found it promising. At the same time, regions across the country were working to develop their own tourism industries. The company decided to inspect the site before making a decision. I called home in advance, asking the village chief and township leaders to prepare for the visit. If this project worked, my parents wouldn't need to travel far for construction jobs, nor would the villagers need to go south to work in factories. The children wouldn't be left behind anymore. Instead, everyone could set up small stalls at their doorsteps, selling food and water to tourists. Everyone could come back, and our village could thrive. This wasn't what the chief had dreamed of. He had always hoped we'd go out into the world. But now, it meant we could all return, making a living right at home. When I returned to the village, my old classmates organized a reunion. From them, I learned something that chilled me. Ethan had been sentenced to death, yet for good behavior he had been released early. But once free, he didn't repent. Instead, he sought out Claire. Claire, By then, Claire had long since married someone else and was 8 months pregnant. The moment Ethan saw Claire, he didn't say a word. He just ended her life. You ruined my life. Why should you get to live well? Didn't you say you loved me? Then come with me to hell, let's be a pair of doomed lovers down there. But it didn't stop with Claire. Ethan ran to Mr. Zhang's house and dealt with both him and his wife as well. The one he hated was you, wasn't it? If you hadn't cursed him and beaten him all the time, why would he have put all the blame on me? You deserve to pay for this too. After confronting them, Ethan called the police and turned himself in. Even in prison, he didn't stop. With a hidden piece of dental floss, he strangled Zach to death. Didn't you say you treated me as a brother? Then come keep me company. If I can't live, none of you will live either. At first, Ethan's parents had run around frantically trying to save him. But later, after hearing the villagers whisper things like, "Once a man goes to prison, he's finished," they gave up. By the time I returned to the village, their youngest child was already old enough to walk. When Ethan's death sentence was finally carried out, he asked to see me. We were separated by iron bars, our lives already worlds apart. His head was shaved, his eyes dull and lifeless. When he saw me, his eyes grew damp. He gave a bitter, self-mocking smile and sighed. "So you came." I said nothing. He spoke anyway. "I saw you on TV. When I first came to prison, I had a dream. In it, I sat the college entrance exam, but under Zach's instigation, I pushed you from the rooftop. After I was arrested, Zach came to me. He said I deserved it. He said everything had been his trap, that he wanted to ruin both you and me. Claire was his woman. He was the one who made her stay by my side, stirring up trouble between us." I said softly, "Maybe that wasn't a dream." Ethan smiled faintly, as if he already knew. He went on, "Last night I had another dream. In it, I never met Zach. I never met Claire. There was only us. We studied together, got into university together, stayed in Beijing together, got married and had 2 sons of our own. Sonia, if there is another life, would you be willing?" His dead eyes lifted with the faintest spark of hope, shimmering with tears as he looked at me. I laughed bitterly. "If there is another life, may we never meet again." I had no words of comfort. His heart was poisoned with malice. Even without Zach and Claire, he and I would never have walked the same road. Sooner or later, we would have gone our separate ways. This is the ending you chose. Don't blame anyone else, blame yourself. Farewell, Ethan. If there is another life, we'll just be strangers, but you'll never have another life. The evil in your heart has already dragged you into hell. I stood and walked away. Outside, the sun was bright and warm. Behind me, the gunshot rang out, startling flocks of birds into the sky. Their wings beat chaotically for a long while before settling into silence.